Now, ahead of the G20 summit and in an effort to showcase India's foreign policy achievements in the run-up to the elections, the senior minister Hardeep Puri has outlined key data points in showcasing where India is now compared to where we were in 2019. Remember, the G20 is next month. That's when all the global leaders are scheduled to be here in Delhi. The point the government now wants to make, and it's not just with G20 in mind, it's also in the run-up to 2024, that India is on the cusp of becoming an even larger economic powerhouse. Here are some of the key points made by Mr. Puri about what it was in 2014 and what it is now. So let's take a look at fuel price comparisons. What this data suggests is that even in the worst years as a result of the Ukraine crisis, when fuel prices went up all over the world, India's did go up by 2.36%. Compare that with Pakistan. We're talking about petrol here. That went up by more than 50%. Canada by more than 24%. The USA went up by more than 30.15%. And let's take a look at diesel statistics as well. In fact, let's move on now, take a look at GDP diesel statistics over here. India's diesel prices did go up, but it was at about 4.9%, whereas countries like Pakistan went up to 40.81%, Canada to 21.2%, the USA to 29.31%. Compare 4.97% to Pakistan's 40.8%, or even America's 29.31%. If you take a look at GDP numbers, and this is what we often hear about, the IMF says that India will be contributing 15% to global growth in 2023, this year alone. So that gives you an idea of how big India is emerging. Our GDP will cross 3.75 trillion this year alone. So that places us well into getting into that 5 trillion, 8 trillion, and ultimately 10 trillion league club as well. India's trade balance, now this is important. If we look at export and import statistics from 2014, compare that with what it was earlier to what it is now. So in 2014, if you look at the export statistics, 317 billion in terms of India's export. And if you look at it presently now, let's just bring up the next point. Back in 2014, import was at 459.369 billion. So compare that with what it is now, and you'll see there's been a huge change indeed. It's up to 770 billion for exports, and as far as imports, 892 billion plus. So that gives you an idea of how fast India's economy has really been growing.